Gracie Jiu Jitsu rocks. Welcome to the Gracie Jiu Jitsu Rocks podcast, a podcast dedicated to Gracie Jiu Jitsu and all things Gracie, including self-defense, competition, anti-bullying, women's self-defense and empowerment, nutrition, and most especially, the people involved in Gracie Jiu Jitsu. This podcast is for the average Joe. It's for anyone who practices, trains, teaches, or just loves to talk about or hear about Gracie Jiu Jitsu. We'll explore the lives of Gracie Jiu Jitsu practitioners, how they got involved in the art, and what effect it's had on their lives. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. Welcome to episode 43 of the Gracie Jiu Jitsu Rocks podcast. As always, I'm your host, Marty Josie, and thanks for listening. My guest today is Relson Gracie black belt Todd Tanaka. But before we get to that, this is the first episode of the year 2016, so Happy New Year to everyone. I hope you had great holidays, and I hope your year's off to a fantastic start. So I asked the question, how is your year going so far in this month of January? January being almost over now. How's it going? How's it started for you? Are you on the right track to make this the best year ever for you? I sincerely hope that you are. Let's start with a jiu-jitsu quote, and that is, if you don't lose, you win. And that, of course, is from Grandmaster Relson Gracie. Very true statement indeed. So just to let you know how my year is starting, I don't know if I told you before, I don't know if I mentioned to the listening audience before, but I had a surgery in early December and have been recuperating all through the month of December and January. So this was a hernia repair surgery related to an operation I had 18 years ago. And someday on the show, I may tell that whole story because it is kind of an interesting situation that occurred that led to the surgery. But anyway, they had to slice open my abdomen and pull out my intestines to check for damage. And this left my abdominal wall kind of compromised and more vulnerable to developing what they call incisional hernias. So I went in to have what I thought was 3 of them repaired. It ended up being many, many more than that. The surgeon described it as Swiss cheese in there. And what we thought was going to be about a 2-hour surgery ended up being well over 8 hours. So it was pretty rough going, and the recuperation has been much, much harder than I expected. But I'm finally feeling human now. I'm able to work out. It was super hard to stay off the mats for that length of time. I did watch a lot of video and talked a lot about jiu-jitsu, but at a good place now and starting to do some very light training, and hopefully we'll be back to 100% before too long. I also want to let you know about an exciting project that I'm working on to be finished up later this year. And the project is a Relson Gracie tribute book that I'm producing. And in this book, it's going to be personal stories from people that knew Grandmaster Relson or ones that met him or spent any time with him. And some of the stories are going to be humorous, some are going to be serious, what impact that he's had on people's lives, etc. So very excited about this project. Be looking for that later in the year. If you know of someone that would be a good contributor to this book, pretty much I'm looking for 1-page stories or 1 to 2 page stories. Or if you yourself are listening and new Grandmaster Elio and would like to be a contributor, certainly reach out through email at graciejujitsurocks@gmail.com and let me know who you are, your background, and what kind of interaction you had with Grandmaster Elio. I certainly won't be able to include all of them in the book, but I'm certainly willing to talk to anybody interested in contributing and see what we can do. Again, can't promise anything, but because we have limited amount of space in the book, obviously, but certainly reach out if you know of someone or if you yourself are interested in being involved in that project. Also want to remind you that we do have Relson Gracie on the show from time to time answering questions, so go ahead and submit your questions. If you have anything you'd like to ask Relson and have him answer, go ahead and email me as well at the same email address as I just gave, and we'll put it on the list for him to answer. The Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment today will be a clip from a video called Nothing Will Stop Me, a YouTube video, and it's kind of a compilation from several motivational videos. It's very impactful and very motivational to me, so I hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned for that after the interview. The interview today is with Todd Tanaka, and Todd runs his own academy, Relson Gracie Academy, which is part of Team HK and is located in Honolulu, Hawaii. He's been involved in Jiu Jitsu for many, many years and very instrumental in the Relson Gracie organization. His school is also a certified training center through the Gracie Academy. So very excited to speak with Todd today. So without further ado, let's meet Todd now. Okay, I'm speaking with Todd Tanaka. So hello, sir, and how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for taking the time to do this. We really appreciate it. So I wanted to start out asking you about, you had a little encounter. Was it yesterday or the day before? I read about on Facebook. So will you tell us a little bit about that encounter?
Yesterday. Right after my class, I had went over across the street to the 7-Eleven to grab some food for lunch. And then as I was walking back across the street, there was this guy, and I didn't even notice him. I just was crossing the street and waiting for my turn to cross waiting for a light. And then on the other side, there was a lady, and she's an older lady, and she was standing by herself, but I didn't really notice her yet either. What I noticed was the guy yelling. He's like, "Hey!" And he jumped out at the lady, and the lady kind of jumped back, really scared. So that's what draws me to the attention over there. And then he had this mask on. Like he had like a sweater or a hoodie with a total mask over. It looks like Spider-Man kind of thing. And he's like trying to really scare this lady. Then he starts walking by her and he notices me. So he starts looking at me and walking towards me. And then as he got closer, he was maybe like 6 feet away. He lunged kind of like he was going to do something to me. So I just stood there. And then a lady started to walk down this other alley part thing. So I kind of went in between her and him, and then he kept like looking at me, and then he stuck the finger at me. So I was like, "Oh, what is this guy?" So I stuck it back in him, and then he started walking towards me, and I got into a little stance, and then he stopped, and then he just started backing away, acting all crazy, and I was like, "Dude, come then." And he didn't come, but he backed away, he kept walking away. Then he crossed the other street, and he got to the other side, took the mask off, and he started yelling. So I was like, "Oh, man." So and after that, I just told him, "Don't worry, I was protecting you," and I walked her over to the shop that she was going to.
Nice. Good thing you were there and able to help, a damsel in distress, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if he's going to really do anything more than that, but, you know, I just didn't like the fact that these guys are, like, trying to scare older ladies and stuff, you know.
All right. Man, a lot of crazies out there for sure, you know. And it does really highlight the fact that, you know, everybody, you never know when something's going to happen. And good thing, I'm very glad that nothing serious came of this, you know, for you, but you obviously were ready. And but you never know, you know, we train to be ready, but you never know when something's going to happen. So
yeah,
always got to be on the lookout.
It's always good to have something. And I mean, this guy had the mask and he had a little, like, a fanny pack. So I was like, why?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what this guy looks like. I don't know why he's acting crazy. Does he have something in his fanny pack? I'm not going to take the chance and go and find out. But if he has to come this way, I'm going to defend myself, do what I know, right?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Sounded like you handled it perfectly.
Yeah, and I mean, I wrote that on Facebook because I wanted to bring attention to the situation, because we just had my friends over at Central Law who had a free women parts self-defense class this past weekend, which I went over there to help them out. But I told some of my friends, hey, let's go. You know, the female friends, I was like, come on, let's go. You guys need to learn some stuff. And then they all flaked on me the last minute. And I'm just kind of like, hey, so you guys never know. Like, you guys don't think it's not going to happen to you. Just come to these classes. And I had Relson Gracie at my school last night. And it really bothers me that my closest female friends don't take it as serious as they should. And I'm like, come on.
Right. You're like, come on, it's such a vital thing. You got to at least learn the basics of protecting yourself, right?
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
I was going to ask you about the seminar with Grandmaster Relson yesterday. How did that go?
It was great. It's great. Oh, as always, you know. Showed a lot of really good techniques, as well as, you know, he loves to tell stories. So we got the best of both worlds on that, yeah. Absolutely.
I'd love to. I've never had the chance to meet him as of yet, but I certainly hope to in the future. All right, sir. Let's back up and tell us a little bit about how you got started, your background, how you got started in martial arts. Did you do any other arts before discovering Jiu Jitsu, and just how that journey kind of evolved for you and where it took you?
Oh, okay. So yeah, I had no previous background in any martial arts. I wanted to take karate as a kid. You know, the Karate Kid movie came out. He got very popular, and my best friends in the neighborhood started training and stuff. But when I was playing soccer at the time. But when I went to go check out the class, the guy who was teaching the karate school had a very small room, and I didn't like being in that small enclosed space. I felt like, oh man, like, you know, I wasn't comfortable. So I never did take a class. I just wanted to go check it out and watch. So I never joined because I felt weird, like
claustrophobic.
Maybe I won't say claustrophobic, but just maybe. Maybe he's claustrophobic. I just didn't want to be in that.
Just a little uneasy, right?
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
And so I never did do that. And you know, like I said, I played soccer on the big field. It's open, so I felt okay. But that was one of the things that stopped me from taking classes. And then later on, we got into intermediate school. A bunch of my friends, with, you know, Van Damme, Seagal, all these martial arts movies are coming out, and it's super popular, right? So we're like, oh, we got to take something. So we started looking around, and we found an Aikido school, and I think they had the karate school still going on. But we were actually about to go to the Aikido school, but my friend told us, hey, my dad just started taking this new Jiu Jitsu classes. And we're like, what is that? He's like, well, there's this Brazilian guy, and he's teaching my dad and his friends out of his garage. And my friend Jared, his dad was in the Secret Service, so it was a bunch of Secret Service guys. And they went to a couple classes, and they liked it. And they said, Dad told them, hey, guys, why don't you just try it out and, you know, see how it goes. So we're like, all right. So they went to the class, and I couldn't go for the first class because I had like a orthodontist appointment. But they went, they liked it. But then so the next week they're like, okay, Todd, you're gonna go, but don't laugh, because this guy talks, and he's talking about health things. Like, this guy, he talks funny. His English isn't very good, and all this stuff. So we went there, and I liked it, you know, the class, and then from there I knew that's something I liked, and we ended up joining, and throughout high school. The three of us, Jared, John, and me, kept going, and we brought other friends through the years, and you know, and we just kept going. And then I think they both kind of dropped off right when we graduated, but I kept I kept training with Relson.
Mm. It was really in its infancy back then, too, right? Hardly anybody, I'm sure, that you knew besides you, a few guys were taking it. It certainly wasn't widespread in those days.
Yeah, like we were Jared, John, and myself, and there was another guy, Jason, but he only went for a couple classes. We were the Relson's first children students.
Mm.
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. Very cool. And did I read correctly that you were the first person in the United States to compete in a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament?
Well, as far as we can figure, because I started in 1990 when we were like 13 years old in intermediate school, and the UFC hasn't even came out yet, right?
Right.
So Relson said, "Oh yeah, that's my first kid student." And then like later in 1992, he threw a tournament at the University of Hawaii. And pretty much, there's no other schools, right? So it's pretty much all his students, and he opened it to, other judo schools and whoever. It's an open tournament. But the whole time we were learning in intermediate, I didn't know it was a sport. I thought we were taking a martial art, right? So,
yeah.
I was like, man, how am I going to defend myself? So all my questions were based upon, what if the guy headlocks you like this? What if the guy punches you like that? And that was like, my major concern anyway, because I'm a small guy, and I was just like, this is what I want to know. So when he taught us chokes and stuff, I thought it was fun, but I didn't, and maybe he taught us a little different because we were kids. Maybe he taught us a little different mentality-wise as he taught the adults, but my whole thing was like street fight self-defense. So when he asked us, like, hey, we'll have this tournament coming up in like a month, I want you guys to compete in it. We're like, what is that? And he's like, okay, well, here's how the points work. Like, what? I thought you said it doesn't matter if the guy passes your card to make sure you're safe and, like protect yourself in all your positions. And so that was like totally different for us. And
that's funny.
Yeah, and then, John, I was like 100 pounds at the time. My friend John was, I think he was more like around 140. And the guy, there was a white belt. His name is Chris Johnson. He passed away, a couple of years ago, so he's no longer alive. But he was a white belt who was older. He was older than us, and he, Relson's like, okay, Todd, you're gonna play him. And I'm thinking, like, he's older than both of us, me and John, but he was in the middleweight class. I was like, why am I gonna play him? John, you should play this. But I was like, no, he's a small one, so we'll put you against him, because I was already a blue belt. We were both blue belts. And then, so we went, and then that was like so nerve-wracking, because we had no idea how it was going to go. And, again, I go into this room full of people that I don't really know, because they all train at Relson School at UH in the gym. And so it's kind of like us walking into, somebody else's home court advantage. They all knew each other, the kid, Chris. We were on the same team, but I just, just uncomfortable. And they don't know who I am. They're looking like, who's these kids? How come they have blue belts, And they're like, how do these guys rank higher than us? But anyway, we go in there very nervous. I couldn't even sleep the night before. I get in there, and we have our match, and Chris ends up beating me. I remember Homo Barros is one of Relson's brown belts at the time. Maybe it was purple at the time, I forget. But he was the referee, and and I ended up losing on points. But I had fun, and it kind of made me embarrassed, and I didn't want to compete again after that for a while, because I was like, I lost to a white belt. But I look at the video, and I'm like, he didn't submit me, anything like that, and I didn't play as well as I wanted to. And I asked Relson after that, like, hey, what do you think went wrong? And he's just like, I think you're just nervous. He's like, you play a lot better in the gym. I mean, mats, but he's like, yeah, I think you just need to compete more, get the nerves out. But,
right.
Yeah.
And you did compete quite a bit more later on, right?
I did. I'll be honest. I'm a straight up guy. I'll tell you guys, I've entered a bunch of tournaments, and I've never won a match. I've always gone against higher belts. And because at the time, like I said, there was nobody in my weight class. I'd always go okay, go to the tournament, nobody in my weight class, my level. So I would always go up a couple levels, like a weight class or so. And then, I'd either lose on points, or maybe sometimes I get submitted by the adults. But I just wanted to challenge myself, like that was the one thing I told you. I was very nervous about getting into the karate class because of my nervousness. So I would just do it just more to get myself comfortable in front of people,
Well, they say absolutely. They say you got to get out of your comfort zone to grow, right?
Right.
And you certainly did that. It actually makes me really respect you because for most of us, if you never won a match, it wouldn't take but a few of them to say, man, this isn't for me. I'm not going to do it. But you've been in quite a few, and to keep going, that's I respect you highly for that, man. It's great.
And I'll tell you, I never competed as a white belt, right? So I've competed as a blue belt, and after I lost, and I focused a lot on my teaching because I knew I wanted to do this jiu-jitsu for my lifestyle, and I dropped out of college for it, and I put everything I could into making my teaching skills, top notch, and I focused more on helping other people than myself. But like I said, I threw myself in there just to test myself out and try to better myself. And I'll be honest, but I only in my last match in 2011 as a black belt, I got into that. I went into my match completely not nervous or anything. And then I did lose, to this really tough guy, Koji Shibata, I think, or something like that. But I was like, I don't need to compete anymore. I overcame my nervousness, and that was the main thing for myself. I knew I never was the greatest at sport jiu-jitsu, but that's not why I ever started, and that's not how I started. So, my main thing was my self-defense. Absolutely.
I mean, you had nothing to prove. You just wanted to do it to grow and get past, nervousness of it. So it sounds like you did that. So well done. Going back to your journey, so after high school and your friends dropped off and you continued on, where did you go from there in your journey?
Okay, so like I said, I was in college, and I didn't really like it, and my parents were like, well, you got to get a job and do this and that. So I said, let me go ask Relson. So I asked Relson. I was like, hey, Relson, can I get a job working for you? And he said, I was 19 at the time. He said, well, I'm going to send Scott Devine, who was one of Relson's assistants at the time, to the Gracie Academy, run by Horn and Hoyce. And he's like, you can go up with them. I'm going to pay for your ticket. So Relson paid for my ticket. Scott and me flew up, and we went through, at the time they had an instructor program, and Grandmaster Elio Gracie was there during that time too. And that's,
nice.
And so we went through there for a couple of weeks, and we got to learn how to, little tricks on how to teach better and everything like that. And then when we came back, Relson and Horn had got into a partnership where they opened a Gracie Academy down here in Hawaii. And so then Scott and me went to work as assistants for Relson during that time. And at the same time, assistant classes, I got a part-time job working behind Relson's desk. So I worked on his desk as like the secretary guy, and eventually moved my way up into assistant manager, and later on in 2 years manager, and then his general manager. And then from there, after that, I ended up opening my own academy with his blessing.
When was it that you actually opened your own academy?
2002, I believe,
And I remember reading that at one point you had a restaurant as well, and at some point it came to a head, and you had to make a very serious decision on continuing jiu-jitsu or focusing on the restaurant. Yeah,
I mean, one of my really good friends at the time, he offered me the opportunity to open a restaurant with him, so I decided to go with that, and I kind of kept my jiu-jitsu school open at the same time, where we had one of my friends, Shane again. He kept the jiu-jitsu school running while I managed the restaurant. And then after a while, about 5 years, I was like, you know what, this restaurant thing ain't for me, so I came back to teach jiu-jitsu classes.
All right. I know you've been instrumental in Relson's organization for quite some time. Also, your academy is a certified training center through the Gracie Academy. And tell us what Team HK is.
Oh, okay. So, I'm a certified training center under the Gracie Academy. So, about 2 years ago, I went and I went through the certification process for the Gracie Academy to be a certified combatives program and bullyproof instructor.
Yeah.
And it's been great, you know. Have you seen the latest video they put out about, you know, how the CTC and like the curriculum is? Have you seen that video?
Yeah. I've actually, and I've been through that program as well, so I'm very familiar with it.
Yeah, so that's great. Yeah, like I figured, you know, Relson is a red belt. He's the grandmaster. His jiu-jitsu is like top notch, and you know, he and Hannah are great instructors as well, just like Horian, their dad. But they have a little more of the business side down. So I was thinking, if they're like the red belts in business, and I got Relson, the red belt in jiu-jitsu, if I go through both those things, how can I lose?
Right. So, you know, Smart move.
And then the Team HK. Originally, I'm from a place called Hawaii Kai in Oahu, and Relson used to call us the Hawaii Kai boys, Team HK, because we'd come from the Hawaii Kai, and we kind of kept that. But when I broke off and made my own school, I was asking my friends, like, hey, what should we call the school, you know? And they're like, why don't you just stick with the Team HK, because that's how everybody kind of knows you. So I said, okay, but I don't really want to associate my school with just that particular neighborhood, you know. So I started looking on the internet, and I found a couple of Japanese words, and one of them was they were Hiroi Kokoro, and the translation for that is like big-hearted, or also can be open-minded. Wow. So I asked my best friend George Kotaka, he's like the world champion karate, you know, in karate. And I asked him, hey, can you ask your parents, does this make sense? And he asked his mom, because they're from Japan, and then he said, oh yeah, my mom said that's really good, you know, that does make sense. So I was like, okay, perfect. We're going to call it Team Hiroi Kokoro, but just HK. And that's where that came from.
Nice. I love hearing how the names originate. That's pretty cool. And you recently, or maybe last year, I think it was, had a chance to teach a private to Anthony Bourdain.
Oh yeah, that was an interesting one.
Yeah, what was that like?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, like, I guess his manager had contacted me and asked if I could teach a private class for him on last year's Super Bowl. So it was like the day before Super Bowl weekend, like Saturday morning and Sunday morning. And I think it was like he wanted the class at like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. Maybe it was like 6 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, oh man, I'm thinking like, oh, I'm going to go to my friend's house and watch the Super Bowl. I'm not a big fan of football. I was like, you know, we're going to have a nice barbecue. So I was like, I don't know if I can do it. And the guy's like, well, you know, it's for Anthony Bourdain. So I was like, oh, okay, it's for him? Let me do it.
That's a different story, right?
Yeah, right. So yeah, I brought my assistant.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I brought my assistant Pon because I was like, I think Bourdain is like 6'5", and I'm like 5'3". So I was like, I brought my assistant Pon, and we did the moves. And yeah, he's such a great guy. I think he's like, you know, just a real guy. But yeah, he goes
so
hard.
Cool
he goes hard. He goes hard.
Does he?
Yeah.
It's so cool how he's gotten so into jiu-jitsu, you know, and now wherever he goes, he tries to train and everything. He puts it on his shows, and that's great.
Absolutely. Really cool. I hope he comes back and gives me a call.
Right, absolutely. So, can you tell us? Can you share with us a story about a memorable student that you've had, or maybe a student, either child or adult, that's had a big impact on you?
Well, not anyone particular. I mean, all my students, you know, have an impact on me. But sure. The ones I do I like is like, well, not really impact me, but makes me know that what I'm doing is the right thing. Is that a lot of them will write back to me, or I'll run into them, and they'll tell me how something that I've taught them saved them from an encounter, you know, on the street.
Right. Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Because there's awesome. No medals to show for that. You know, there's no pictures like to show that. Like, oh look, my teacher, I trained this guy and I got this gold medal. Like, that's great. That's awesome. But like, you know, like you can't show that I got attacked and I choked this guy out and you know,
that's right.
they tell me these things. I'm like, oh man, And then, so those things are really awesome. It makes you feel
That's got to be so gratifying because, you never, like you said, a medal is something tangible. You can see it or feel it, but you never know the impact you have on someone's actual skills or their heart and how you've affected the trajectory of their life, and how you might have changed it for the better until they write back to you or do something to show you or tell you what about that impact that you've had. So it's great that you get that acknowledgement sometimes.
Yes.
So what about your time off the mat? I know you are involved in your community, volunteering and teaching homeless kids and things like that. Tell us a little bit more about that kind of stuff that you do.
Oh, I haven't done that in a while. I mean, I have a friend, Liz, and she had, she had that, the Hata Foundation, and she asked me, hey, can you help teach these homeless kids? And I was like, yeah, no problem. Like, you've helped me so much in the past that, I don't mind giving back. So I've done that. I've helped out at, like, some organizations at the University of Hawaii have contacted me to do self-defense classes, and I'll bring a team up and we'll help out. So I'm always open to help out things like that. Yeah. So.
Sure. Do you have any other hobbies that you do when you're not on the mat, or is it strictly jiu-jitsu and no free time besides jiu-jitsu?
Jiu-jitsu takes up a lot of my time. When I'm not at the class, I'm like watching videos. I got to keep up to date with what's going on. Like I try to go to the other seminars at other schools if I can. I'll watch online, and and because of my business, I got paperwork and computer work to do.
Oh yeah.
But when I'm not, I love to go out with my friends. I love to eat, so I'll go out to eat. I try to go hiking and go to the beach. But yeah, I mean, it just takes up a lot of my time.
It does. If you're like a lot of us, when you're not doing it, you're thinking about it, or in some way, right? Some form or fashion. Sure.
Some way.
So, if you could train with anyone, living or deceased, that you haven't had the chance to, who would that be, and why?
I would love to train with Relson Gracie. Yeah. I mean, he's been here to Hawaii a couple of times. And when I was younger, I didn't have the money because I made the excuse, like I'd rather go out the night before or do something. And I didn't, I could have used my money to go to the seminar, but I chose not to. So I've never got to take a seminar or class from him. And to this day, I regret it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's one of those things like, man, looking back, there's a couple opportunities, but I didn't. And I've got to hang out with him, but I've never got to take a class. So that's one of the things I regret. So it would be Relson Gracie, definitely. Okay,
that's a good one for sure. I had the opportunity to do some seminars with him way back in '96, and it was just amazing experience.
You're lucky.
I don't mean to rub it in, but hopefully someday you'll definitely get to do that as well.
Yeah.
So, Todd, do you have a favorite quote or motto that either inspires you or that you like to live your life by?
Not really. No. I mean, I love to read quotes on the internet and stuff like that. I like to repost them, but no. I mean, basically anything that has to do with like enjoying life.
Okay.
Enjoying. As I got older, I just think, do what makes you happy as long as you're not screwing anybody over that has helped you get to where you're at. Yeah.
Right.
Enjoy your life.
Absolutely. If you had to sum it up, what would you say the biggest impact that jiu-jitsu has had on your life? That may not be easy to do, just to sum it up, but if you had to narrow it down.
Confidence. Like I told you, I was afraid to be in the room, at the karate room, and I never went that route. But now I can do seminars and talk in front of my class, a large group of people. It's never always the easiest thing, but now I can do these things. It's given me a lot of friends. And when I was growing up, I got in a lot of trouble. So it helped me to gain respect because I guess once people started to see how, the UFC, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is effective, people wouldn't pick on me as much because I was smaller. So I would bring my friends to jiu-jitsu class, and I would like choke them out. And so they knew the effect of jiu-jitsu, and they would train. So when I was out and situations happened, they would stand up for me because they looked up to me as like almost one of their teachers and stuff like that. So things wouldn't have to happen.
Yeah, it sounds very empowering.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just like one of the bullies of the school. Well, I wouldn't say bully. One of the guys that with the older classmates. He's just one of the toughest guys over there. He was a TA in my freshman year, and he was chasing me around, and I pulled him to guard, and then I got to his back and I choked him out, and all my friends in the class that took jiu-jitsu were like, "Hey, tap, tap, tap," because he didn't even know what to do. There was no UFC, he didn't know what to tap out. So he tapped
right.
out, and when I let go of the choke, he stayed on all fours, and he was just shocked, and like he didn't know what the hell. He was thinking like, And after that, he was super cool to me, and then if anybody picked on me, he just like have a little talk with them, and it was all good. So it just
nice.
helped me not have to fight. Yeah.
That's everything, man. It's giving you that. Sounds like it's giving you direction, but also the biggest thing is the confidence, and which has changed the course of your life, right?
Yeah, definitely. It made me, it helped me channel my anger and my frustrations out, and not have to take it out in a fight. I have to go that route.
Yeah, that's huge.
I think people don't understand that. Like people who go to work every day and have this like problems and stress, they have no release. I mean, they could go to a jiu-jitsu class and like let it all out without actually having to punch somebody or kick somebody in the face and hurt anybody, and themselves not get hurt. They'll really appreciate like jiu-jitsu. They're like, oh man, this is a great stress reliever as well as something that you're learning and getting in shape at the same time.
Right on. It's so good for you on so many levels. So
yeah. Mind,
definitely
body,
a win-win.
Man.
You got it. So Todd, what's something about you that people would be surprised to hear or to learn?
Maybe that I'm not a big MMA fan. I don't watch the UFC very much. I don't follow the fighters. I don't know. I don't really follow too much tournament guys either. A lot of times I find out a lot about Jiu-Jitsu world champions and UFC fighters through my students, because they're always asking, "Hey Todd, did you see this fight? Who do you think is going to win that? Or what about this guy?" And I'm like, I don't even know who that is.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah,
I'm a little bit like that too. I mean, I still watch UFC, but I'm not near as big a fan as I used to be.
Yeah.
Way back in the day, I loved it, and then even in the modern era, I've enjoyed it, but I've lost some interest as well. Although when Brian T. City Ortega fights, I got to watch that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain guys I like to follow, but there's just so many people now, and it's just like, oh man, like,
yeah,
and there's
there
so
really
many events. There's so many events. When the UFC first came out, I'd have these little UFC parties at my house, and it would happen like
same here.
Every 6 months, a year or something like that. A year in the beginning, maybe, and then it came like every 3 months or 4 months, and then now it's like every week and 3 times a week. I'm like, oh man, can I keep up with that?
Yeah, I agree. All right, so if you could go back and talk to white belt Todd, what advice would you have for him, Todd?
Probably be just to like compete more, maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
I was like I told you, I asked Relson what he thought had gone wrong in my first match, and he said, "You just need to compete more. Get the nerves out." And then in like 96 or 97, I can't remember, the Pan American Championship, DJ Pan American Championships came to Hawaii, and I was working as a staff. I was walking around and I saw Relson Gracie sitting in the bleachers by himself. I was like, oh, nobody's talking to him. So I walked up to him and I was like, "Hey, Relson, can I ask you a bit of advice?" And he said, "Sure." And then I asked him, I said, "Well, I get really nervous before I compete. What do you think? Well, can you give me any tips?" And he said, "You just need to compete more." And I was like, I was thinking in my head, that's exactly what Relson told me, But then I still didn't listen. I still didn't listen. I was like, okay. And then, thinking back, it's like, maybe my pride, I didn't want to lose. But as you get older, some of that's just silly, Maybe you're never going to be the world champion. Maybe you're never going to do the thing you want. But you gotta, if you love it, you gotta just keep pursuing it. Win or lose. It's like if you love playing basketball with your friends, but you're the worst player and you like to do it, you just gotta do it. Who cares? Just have fun.
I completely agree. We get so caught up on winning and losing or how we're going to look, and the ego, it's there, and sometimes it's just hard to rise above it. But the older you get, I think it becomes a little easier as you mature, and you kind of are able to put things in a different perspective and see things from, kind of a higher vision, if you will, and see just kind of how trivial a lot of things are. And the main thing is, like you said, if you love something and you want to do it, do it. It doesn't matter if you're the best or going to be the champion or whatever. Just do it and enjoy it. And by doing that, chances are you're going to be influencing others and touching lives anyway. Like you obviously have been able to touch a lot of lives through your instruction. Yeah,
and like I said, my tournament record is terrible, but here going on in April is going to be 26 years in Jiu-Jitsu for me. So, in 26 years, I've enjoyed it every step of the way.
That's really great. Much respect, sir. You have some upcoming seminars on the East Coast. I want to be able to give a plug to before we close. So tell us a little bit about those. What's going on?
Yeah, so I'll be in the East Coast, Maryland, and I'm going to go visit a black belt, Stuart Ramos, and purple belt Mike and Jordan Stewart, as well as Jim Thrift and Nick Tissue. So their schools, and then after that, I'm going to go over to Las Vegas on the way back. I'm going to hit up my friend Aaron Reese over in St. George, Utah. And I have an association as well under Lee Sakai, one of my brown belts in Las Vegas. And my good friend, black belt, he's a Robert Garza black belt, Ransom Shepard. Going to go, I think, Fight Capital. So going to hit, hit those places. And you can find that information on my website, teamhk.net. For those dates.
Okay. And do you have a couple different websites?
I just have my personal website, toddtanaka.com, just for fun.
It's a good one. I liked it. Right. All right, Todd. So before we close, anything else you'd like to share about life or jiu-jitsu, or anybody you'd like to thank?
Well, like I said, some guys you're listening out there, give jiu-jitsu time. Sometimes you don't pick it up right away. And don't get discouraged. Just go with it. If you're having fun, don't worry about winning. It'll get there. And like I said, if you have fun with it, don't quit. And guys, I'd like to thank who's made my journey really great is of course Grandmaster Carlos and Emil Gracie, my master Relson Gracie, Horian Gracie, Hidon Henner, some of the guys down here, the Onzukas. Homovaros, Scott Devine, Bernardo Textera, who are some of my instructors throughout the years when I first started learning. Kid Pellegro, my parents and friends, and my assistants. My assistants are the ones that helped me run a great school. So, thank all those guys.
Excellent, man. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I really appreciate your time and your and the conversation and your insights. So. Much respect, and thank you very much, Todd.
Hey, thank you for having me.
All right. Aloha, my friend.
All right. Take care. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay, really enjoyed that interview with Todd, and I have to say that I really admire how he shared the fact that he never won a match in all his competitions. I think that really shows what kind of person he is, his character. That he persevered and stayed with competing even when he wasn't winning, and also to just openly share that and just really put it out there and put it on the line shows no ego and shows that he's all about just helping others and being open and transparent. I think that's an awesome thing. So much respect, Todd, and thank you, sir. Stay tuned now for the Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment.
think it's some major goal you want, or maybe it's one you're already working on, and you have experienced a lot of setbacks, a lot of defeats. You've experienced a lot of disappointment. Maybe you've already given up, and maybe you just need a little fire, a little encouragement to get back in the game again. There are winners, there are losers, and there are people who have not discovered how to win.
Nothing is impossible. The only thing that's impossible is what you make impossible. So I need you to understand that it's not going to be an easy road. But I'm telling you, if you're willing to put in 120%, if you're willing to go all in, you can take that which was once impossible and make it possible.
Not only is it possible for you to have your dream, but it's necessary that you go for what is yours in the universe. You do what it is you're supposed to. You're supposed to build something. You're supposed to create something. I don't know how to do it. Learn. It's you. It's on you. You got to make that happen. Nobody's going to bring it to you on a silver platter and say, here's your dream manifested. No, it's hard. Yes, it's hard. It's difficult. Yes, right. And it's worth it.
I want you to hold on. It may not happen in the time that you think is going to happen, but I want you to know something. If you quit, it's never going to happen. If you quit, if you give up, if you stop, if you do not persevere, listen to me, you will never see it.
The major key to your reaching your dream, your living up to your greatness, your making your contribution is you.
What do you need to know, to be, to do, to have what you want that you don't know right now? What do you need? And so I'm asking you this question. You got to get this one. What do you need to know that you don't know right now? What information, what books do you need to read? What mentors do you need? What circles do you need to hang around?
See, if you know what your life work is, I encourage you to start working on it. If you can't do it all at one time, do just a little bit of it.
And you got to actually go in a room, close the door, and you got to see yourself doing it. You got to feel yourself doing it. You got to actually walk in it. You got to go in the future, live it out, come back in the present, and start working toward it. Promise me this, 5 to 10 minutes that you will devote to seeing yourself being successful. I need you to do this for me. Like, I don't care what happens in your life. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care where you are. Every single day you wake up, if you're going to have energy, if you're going to have passion, if you're going to have drive, every day you wake up, you got to start with that vision. It may not happen in 6 months, it may not happen in a year, it may not happen in 2 years, but at some point, my dream is going to become a reality. Every single day, we're not waiting for it to happen. We just don't have sight. Sight is for people who live in the present. We have vision. We're going to make it happen before it happens.
You got to write, even if no one published your book, write, because that was given to you to do. Everything in you is telling you to stop, to give up. Every muscle is aching, and you're saying to yourself,
you can do it. Where you are is temporary. You will not be there for the rest of your life.
Other people couldn't see it. A lot of people didn't believe it. You were attacked. You were criticized. People were opposing you. but you kept on doing it. It was hard, it was rough, it was difficult, but to you, it was worth it.
You have to know that this thing is going to work.
Say this to yourself every day. I can write my own book. I can have my own business. I can take the trip and travel around the world. It's possible. I can bounce back from adversity and reinvent my life. It's possible.
And that's going to do it for this edition of the show. As always, thanks for listening. I really hope you're enjoying the show. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and take a moment to rate the show on iTunes if you're an iTunes user and leave a comment there. Or you can leave a comment on the website at www.graciejujitsurocks.com. I'd love to hear from you, so don't hesitate to reach out to me via email, as well as remember to send in your questions for Peter on Gracie. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, this is Marty Josie, and I'll see you on the mat.